I realized I never told you guys the story of the time a guy asked me on a date and then tried to make me pay for it, and I said no, and explained why, and he ended up changing his mind. So this happened to be the only date I've ever been on with a white man. You can write that down, you can quote it, you can cite it, it's true. And it may be the last. I also think it's very funny that this happened with a white man, and that is something I brought up in the discussion because, you know, he was like a few years older than me. He wanted to go to like a brewery first because he's a bartender, so he's like really into like drinks, I guess. He wanted to go to a brewery first, and then after and he paid for the beers. I don't like beer. That's an important part of the story. I don't like beer. So yeah, after the brewery, he wanted to go get dinner at this place that he liked and knew. And I was like, sure, why not? We had like a few drinks. And then the waiter came over and was like, would you guys like anything else? And he was like, he looked over at me. He was like, what do you want? Because let me be clear, he was leading the charge on every order, right? And that is important. And he'd be like, let's get this, let's get that. And then he asked me what I wanted. And I had said that same like cocktail that we had had the first time. And when the waiter came, he ordered me a beer. Now, if you remember, I don't like beer. So the waiter comes back with a beer and like, I'll drink it because I think it's free. Because that's what you do with free things. The waiter brings the bill, and this white man says to me, so this white man who is older than me and is a white man says, so what do you want to do with this? Are you not embarrassed? Are you not embarrassed? What do you want to do with this? And I was like, as somebody who does not get asked that, I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, with the bill, should we split it? And I was like, oh, I thought this was a date. And he was like, it is a date. And I was like, okay, usually when I get asked on a date, that person pays. And he was like, oh, I didn't know, like, we were still expecting that in this era, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, you ordered me a beer when I asked for something else. And he said, oh, well, I didn't hear you. And I was like, okay, but I don't like beer and I didn't order beer. And he was like, okay. And I was like, this is the question that got him. I said, in what other scenario would you pay for something that you didn't order? And then he paid.